Houthi raids in the Red Sea are threatening Chinese national interests, but Beijing is hesitant to intervene because of its limited resources and neutral stance. Houthi missile and drone attacks targeting shipping in the Red Sea have harmed China, so we welcome them to play a constructive role in preventing these attacks. That action, U.S. State Department spokesman Matthew Miller said late last month. In a phone call with his Chinese counterpart Wang Yi afterward, U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken called on Beijing to join in supporting the International Naval Alliance to protect cargo ships passing through the Red Sea, because of Houthi attacks. Is an unacceptable threat to maritime security and international law. But China has so far not been interested in the idea of joining the US-led alliance to protect prosperity, although Mr. Wang Yi affirmed that Beijing is deeply concerned when the Red Sea situation seriously escalates. We call for a stop to all acts of harassment and attacks on civilian ships, maintaining the smooth flow of global industrial and supply chains as well as the international trade order, Mr. Wang said on January 14. In the middle of a visit to Egypt, he did not directly mention the Houthis, the armed forces that control large territory in Yemen, but emphasized that all parties need to cooperate to maintain safety in the Red Sea in accordance with international law. Instability in this strategic sea poses many risks to China's long-term commercial interests in the region, according to Ahmed Abudu, an expert on the Middle East and North Africa at the UK's Chatham House Institute. The Red Sea and Suez Canal are important pieces for the supply chain of Chinese goods to the European market. Beijing has invested tens of billions of dollars in Egypt, the country that manages the Suez Canal, in the fields of infrastructure, transportation and energy, according to the American Enterprise Institute, AEI. Before the war between Israel and Hamas broke out, mainland Chinese and Hong Kong businesses pledged to invest more than $20 billion in a series of projects along the Suez Canal. China also recently approved to extend the loan limit of $3.1 billion with Egypt, according to the World Bank, WB. COSCO, China's state-owned shipping company, from January 7 had to temporarily suspend all services through Israel due to security concerns. This enterprise in March 2023 invested $1 billion in Egyptian seaport infrastructure. COSCO and CK Hutchison, a seaport investment group headquartered in Hong Kong, last year also announced a $700 million plan to build 2 new container ports in the Red Sea and the Mediterranean. In October 2023, Egypt's Suez Canal Economic Zone received an investment of $6.75 billion from state-owned corporation China Energy, CEC, and $8 billion from United Energy Group in Hong Kong. The increasing frequency of raids on cargo ships in the Red Sea may worry Chinese investors, especially when they have spent a large amount of money to build infrastructure to serve the RIM initiative. Belt and Road, BRI, connects Asia, Europe trade. China also imports about half of its oil from the Middle East, as well as exports more to the European Union than the United States. Most of these shipments are transported via the Red Sea. The crisis in the Red Sea not only threatens China's trade activities, but also the image of this great power. While Beijing advocates non-interference in the internal affairs of countries and neutrality in conflict areas around the world, analysts say this policy is embarrassing Beijing, as BRI members seek support from this country to respond to security challenges in the Red Sea. China has a regular naval presence in the Middle East and West Africa, mainly serving anti-piracy patrol missions. At the time fighting broke out in the Gaza Strip, the Chinese Navy was deploying at least 6 warships in the region, including a Type 052D guided missile destroyer and a Type 052 destroyer. According to the ministry, national defense of this country, the Chinese Navy has also intervened in maritime security incidents in the region. In 2022, a group of fishing vessels asked for help from a Chinese warship, including a Type 052 destroyer, after they discovered a pirate speedboat on the route to the Bab al-Mandeb Strait off the coast of Yemen. However, the Chinese Navy has so far refused to join the Protect Prosperity coalition initiated by the U.S. to prevent Houthi raids. China's military resources in the Gulf are quite limited and they certainly do not want to be dragged into a large-scale conflict. If China speaks out more aggressively, it could offend Iran and suffer harm. It's not worth it, said William Figueroa, an expert on China and the Middle East at the University of Groningen in the Netherlands. China's foreign minister emphasized that the country wants to play a constructive role in international hot spots, and only advocates creating an impact with its influence, attractiveness and strength on the international stage. International responses from Beijing in the Red Sea crisis have so far remained in diplomatic channels, avoiding the use of force to protect interests. Another reason why China hesitates to intervene in the Red Sea is that Houthi raids mainly target cargo ships linked to Israel and the U.S. Chinese officials have not recorded any incidents affecting their country's cargo ships in the area. As a country with a policy of neutrality in international conflicts, China has not found the situation in the Red Sea urgent enough for them to increase pressure on relevant parties, or to directly intervene to protect shipping vessels. Moving on this maritime route, according to experts, when Chinese ships are not directly threatened, the country can continue to stand outside the crisis, even when the U.S. and its partners continuously launch missiles into Yemen and the Houthi group fires missiles in response. According to Joseph Gregory Mahoney, an international relations expert at East China Normal University, Beijing wants to avoid political and diplomatic consequences if it confronts the Houthi forces. They do not want to show their strength in areas too far from their territory and arouse Western concerns about their military potential. At the same time, Beijing can take advantage of improving its position in the region with a neutral message in calling for respect for Yemen's sovereignty, even though the Houthi government in Sana'a has just been recognized by the two countries as Syria and Iran. The Houthi raids also create a basis for Beijing to increase criticism of the U.S. for inflaming conflict and instability in the region, said expert Abudu. Thereby, China will highlight its image as a reliable negotiator, possibly in disagreements in the Middle East, which has been partly demonstrated through the agreement to resume diplomatic relations between Iran and Iran. Saudi Arabia last year. Our video will pause here. Before leaving, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so we can see you again in the next video. Goodbye.